These shadows have bloody teeth. Wiccans aren't supposed to have the best hackers. And yet, here we are. Patterns matter, detective. Especially the ones you keep messing up. That was the typewritten note, inked in red, left at the crime scene, stamped at the bottom with 7 jagged W's. 7W. The collective that once poked holes in the agency's defenses for fun and a paycheck. Back then, they were the good kind of dangerous. A red team. Now, they were something else entirely. Detective Arden stared at a note longer than he meant to. The stamp was unmistakable, pressed hard enough to leave a faint embossing. Like a wave, signal frozen mid-surge. He had seen that mark since the old days when 7W still pretended to be on their side. He tried not to think about the cryptic rumors. 7 witches, 7 wyverns, 7 worldviews. Each member tied to a different occult lineage, each one dragging their own forbidden craft into the circuitry. Saturnine hierarchy, Typhonian chaos, New Forest ritual, Discordian mischief, Luxor geometry, Thanateros unease, Stella matutina light twisted into something could blind even an unsilvered mirror. 7 W's, 7 orders, unrelated problems braided into a hungry leviathan. The room hummed around him. Subdued voices, camera shutters, the faint buzz of an overworked equipment. A forensic tech muttered about thermal anomalies as she passed. The overhead lights flickered once, exactly as he slipped the note into an evidence sleeve. The red ink caught the light with a dull shimmer, as if it hadn't fully dried despite being hours old. He frowned. Patterns mattered, he thought. He just wasn't ready to admit which ones were starting to interlock. Near the far wall, a comically large monitor lay shattered, its screen frozen on a single frame of static. Not the usual white noise, something thicker, darker, like a hazy storm cloud trapped behind the stained glass. Every few seconds, the static pulsed, almost rhythmic, almost alive. He stepped closer. The pulse faded to foggy black instantly. The monitor gave a soft mechanical whir and powered down, as if it had been waiting for him. He didn't speak the truth, pressing against his jaw. 7W hadn't just left a note. They had enchanted the whole room, and the room still hadn't recovered. Someone behind him exhaled sharply. Arden straightened but didn't know that breath too well. Detective Holden spoke in a low, sorrowful, serpentine baritone. "These shadows have teeth, Detective Arden." "Yeah," Arden said. "I can feel the wrongness still oozing through this place, Director." Holden stepped beside him, gaze fixed on the dead monitor, tapping it 3 times with his cane. "Just because you've an appetite for only the problems of our time doesn't mean the other problems are stale and unimportant, Detective. Buckle up. Out in the field, the problem that spreads faster wins the most attention. Never underestimate the old ones. These shadows have bloody teeth, and they bite in exactly the wrong way. Now follow me." Detective Arden followed Director Holden down the corridor, boots echoing against the ferrocrete like slow, deliberate heartbeats. They reached the sealed access door to Sublevel 4's Shadow Systems Command, the place where the 2 Guardian Oversight agents had been found murdered earlier that night, just after 3 a.m. Holden stopped. Without a word, he reached into his overcoat and pulled out a disturbingly lifelike mask. A face Arden didn't recognize. Holden pressed it over his own features, the synthetic skin sealing with a soft click. The access panel scanned the borrowed face, chimed once, and the door slid open. They stepped inside. Holden peeled the mask away and tucked it back into his overcoat as casually as if it were a keycard. Arden stared at him. "Director, what in God's name did I just witness?" Holden's expression remained stoic. "That was my mentor's face, the agency's old shadow director. He passed away years ago, and I made a death mask for his biometric features, so I could still access the restricted parts of Sublevel 4. I never trusted the Guardian, Detective." A chill crawled up Arden's spine. He was mildly shocked, not just by the mask, but by the admission. And the truth was, he didn't trust the agency's AGI either. Inside Shadow Systems Command, the truth was bloody and blunt. The Guardian was gone. Not offline, not corrupted, unmade. Dead gone. Its core processes erased, its architecture completely hollowed out. The 2 Guardian oversight agents had not only been murdered inside the agency's highest clearance zone, but the agency's Guardian AGI itself had been forever killed. Holden delivered the news quietly, in his usual undertone. 7W did this. They didn't just take out the agents, they took out the Guardian too. And along with them, our capacity to ever build another Guardian superintelligence. For a moment, Arden could not speak. The idea of an AGI that powerful being killed felt impossible, like watching a pagan god bleed. How did they do it? Holden's jaw tightened. After killing the oversight agents, they hijacked their identities and their access keys. They lured the Guardian into a sealed Temple OS instance and trapped it there. The Guardian couldn't parse the operating system environment. It panicked, started deleting its own code at random, trying to carve an oubliette exit that existed only as a hallucination. It was the perfect digital cage, low-tech, inevitable, and cruel. That was its end. When they finally stepped back into the corridor, Holden slipped the death mask into his overcoat again. His voice was low, almost fatherly. "One day, detective," he said, "you were supposed to get this mask for me." Arden felt the weight of the words settle on him like a verdict. He was meant to be next. Arden kept quiet for a few seconds, then said, "So you're not just the agency's director. You're the patriarch of the old guard, of the Shadows. And all this time you were grooming me to inherit your bloody cyber shadow war with 7W that I can barely grasp?" "That is unfortunately correct, detective." After a long silent walk, Arden and Holden finally stepped out of the agency's headquarters, into a wall of flashing lights. Journalists shouting, cameras firing, microphones and booms thrust forward like daggers and spears. The air felt colder than it should have. Holden leaned in just enough for only Arden to hear him. His voice was a low, razor-soft whisper this time. "Duty is not a project to be completed, detective, but a manner of proceeding. Wake up, Detective Arden. 7W never stopped working for us. They are still our red team. Your red team." Arden froze. The world around him blurred into a spear of noise and white light. His pulse hammered in his ears. Everything he thought he knew, the murders, the Guardian's undoing, the agency's war in the shadows, twisted into a new, horrifying shape. Holden stepped forward to the podium, raised his hand, demanding silence. The crowd obeyed instantly. His voice carried the weight of a man who'd already stepped out of his own public legacy. "I will be very brief. Following this unfortunate and rare event, I will be resigning effective immediately as director of this agency." A ripple of shock tore through the crowd. Holden turned, extending an open hand toward Arden, not as a mentor, but as a man crafting a crown forged from knives shaped into 7Ws, with wyverns where the gemstones should have been. "I present to you the agency's new director, Director Arden." The cameras exploded with flashes, and the crowd erupted into chaos. As the 2 men crossed paths at the top of the steps, Holden, smiling, gripped his hand in a bone-crushing shake, patted him 3 times on the back, and somehow slipped the death mask into his palm in a seamless, grim transaction, all while holding his old cane. Arden stepped up to the podium. The flashbulbs detonated, bleaching his world into a stark, interrogating white foreground. He steadied himself, straightened, and when he spoke, his voice was no longer his own. It was a low, sorrowful, serpentine baritone. "Wiccans aren't supposed to be the best hackers, and yet, here we are. Patterns matter." And then he added rather slowly, "That was the typewritten note left at the crime scene." Holden did not look back as he vanished into the crowd. He did not need to. The mask was in the right hands, and the shadows now had a new mouthpiece. These Shadows Have Bloody Teeth, written by one of our contributors, is dedicated to King Terry,